Okay, so this video is for project managers, team leaders and developers, and it talks about how to deal with out-of-scope tasks. Okay, so the important thing with out-of-scope tasks is that they must be flagged as out-of-scope, and there's a very simple prefix for doing this. You'll see that there's a section here called out-of-scope tasks. Alright, so what happens is, let's say that the client requests that not only do I have the booking module in the system, but I also want a calendar. Okay, so that request may go to the project manager, such as Vivek, or it may actually go to a particular developer, such as Dinesh. It doesn't really matter who the client asks. So they want to add a calendar. So what I'll do is I'll click this link that says add an item. Now this is the most important part. Anything that's out of scope must be marked like this, hash OOS for out of scope. Right, and then you'll say calendar module. Okay, now let's say again you assign this task to someone. You might assign that task to Annie. Alright, and what you'll do here is that you'll add the item, right, and make sure no matter what you do that this OOS is marked, because I'll explain why it ties into the billing system. I then tick on comments and I say of requirements of calendar are, and it might be, you know, requirement 1, requirement 2, requirement 3, and you obviously put in the description, and then you say please quote me. Alright, so we then add this comment. Alright, done. So the comment's added. Now, she may come back and say quote is 15 hours. Alright, so there you go, it's quoted 15 hours. Now, here's the thing. I now go back and let's just assume for a minute that the client accepts the quote. Okay, let's say that the client accepts the quote. This is what needs to happen. If the client accepts the quote, you take this task, you drag it out of scope, okay, and you put it up here. It now becomes in scope. Okay, so it now goes into the normal task list because it's been quoted and we know. Alright, now let's say I quote for something else. Ticketing module. Alright, now let's say again that we go through the same process, but this time the client says, look, I don't want the quote, it's too expensive. So instead of then dragging it up into the task list, what you do is you just close it. Alright, so then it's gone, and it won't go into the billing cycle. But if they do accept it, you then need to put it in here, right, and it needs to be built. Okay, so you must drag it into the in-scope tasks section. But because it's marked as OOS, we will know later to bill for it. So that's how you add an out-of-scope task into the project.